Perfect. All right. Let's get started. I am Jenna Koontz. I'm the Senior Director of Global Escalations at Financial Force. I'll get into the introductions here in just a moment, but super awesome to have you all here today. And tonight's agenda is some introductions. What is imposter syndrome? I know it's a super kind of buzzy word, but it has a lot of meanings behind it. Characteristics of imposter syndrome, methods to overcome, and then maybe some group discussion. So without further ado, introductions. I'm Jenna. I am fairly new to my company, Financial Force. I've left a company of 11 years to join Financial Force, which was somewhat the inspiration behind this speech tonight, because and I'll tell you my story here in a bit, but I want to hear more about you as well. I've been in tech and tech support for the better part of my career, 20 years. I've worked for companies like Oracle, Bearing Point, NIC, and now here with the San Francisco-based Financial Force. Financial Force is a SaaS-based product sitting natively on top of Salesforce, ERP, and PSA type solutions. So all software, all kind of renewal, kind of a world of SaaS. So anyway, I will turn it over to you, ladies. I'd love to hear a little bit more about you before we get started. Who would like to go first?
I'll go. And you know me, so I'm Rachel Thomas. I work for Tech Systems. I've worked there my entire career, so I just hit 16 years in sales. I've supported a variety of different types of clients, held numerous roles within tech. Currently am in an account lead role, but all focused on Austin. So this is a topic that definitely has come up throughout my career for sure. So
thanks, Rachel.
Hi, I'm Andrea Galloway. I work for the Housing Authority of the City of Austin. I am the Director of Technology Management and Innovation there. I'm also on the executive team. And you definitely know that I feel imposter syndrome all the time, because, you've got to, there's all these, you're working with all the important people and you're in a leadership role, and, sometimes you feel like you don't know as much as you should for the job that you have.
Well stated. Absolutely.
All right, well, hey everyone, my name is Sarah. I actually just accepted an offer at PayPal for software engineering role 1. I'm kind of in the middle of a career transition. I just got out of the military. I served as a veterinarian at Fort Hood for the past 3 years, and then I was in DC for a bit. So made a complete career jump. So yeah, I'm assuming I definitely faced imposter syndrome being a new doctor out of veterinary school, and I know I'm going to experience it as my first software engineering job as well. So excited to hear what you guys any recommendations anyone has for the technology industry.
Wow, congratulations. That's quite a courageous shift.
Thank you.
I already have a question. What was the tool for you to make this, like, not even, I don't know, 90-degree switch, but even like far away switch?
Sorry, you said what tool did I use?
Or where did you go to become a software engineer after being a doctor?
YouTube. No, but honestly, I haven't done a boot camp. I haven't. It was honestly just kind of brute force learning. Obviously, with the military, I had very long hours. With this last position, it just I wasn't in the clinic much. I was just pulling a lot of duty shifts, and that's when I taught myself, and just bugging people, networking like crazy. Thank God for Austin Women in Technology, and yeah, just powering through. And then I got a Army career sponsored internship through our Hiring Our Heroes program. It's kind of an intermediate program that connects veterans with industry, and that's how I got connected with PayPal and worked my way up.
Wow.
Oh, that's okay. My name is Guzel, and I am wanna be in IT and working near IT right now. I work in a startup that is doing automation of the forklifts, and I am the part of the labeling team that prepares the data for machine learning algorithms to learn how they're supposed to recognize the objects all around them. I'm doing it for quite a while, and there is many different things that I feel that I need to switch. And right now, imposter syndrome is the thing that I will be if I gather my strength to get on the job market. I will be feeling a lot imposter syndrome.
Absolutely. Well, you're in the right place. Excellent.
Okay, ready to listen.
So yeah, and by the way, my general preference is if we could just keep this fluid. Don't feel like you need to wait for any point in the presentation to share. I really just want to keep this a group dialogue as we go. But I'll share again. My story is, I said at the beginning, is inspired by my recent transition from the company that I was at for 11 years and over to Financial Force. And you all have expressed similar sentiments of, just this feeling of like, gosh, did I oversell myself during the interview? Did they know that I don't actually do these things versus those things? And as I was really grappling with it week one, after I was, well, actually it started before week one, even when I was looking at the job rack and I was assessing the opportunity, I was like, I don't hit all of the things on the list. And then one of my really good friends who's in talent and acquisition said, Jenna, like, that is such a classic thing that women say. Like, men wouldn't even think twice about it. They would hit 2 or 3 of those bullet points and apply for the role. But we as women feel like oftentimes we need to check all the boxes before we can even present ourselves for consideration. And that was the first area where I need to just kind of say, I've been a support leader for 20 plus years. I know the space, and I should just put myself out there. So I did. I got the job, and and then week one came around where I was like, oh my goodness, it was an entirely different environment, entirely different energy, entirely different vibe. There, it was just everything about it was different. And I thought to myself, oh my goodness, I may have oversold myself during the interview. Do they know that I actually don't know this? And it was my husband who was like, you're crazy. You're a solid leader. You're really good with process. You know how to manage people. You're really good with growth and development. These are the areas that they express to you that they need some additional guidance on, that they're seeking to build certain programs out. And so you really have to just kind of identify these things. And we'll get into that shortly here in the session. But I found myself doing that and thought, what is this? Why am I suddenly feeling this lack of confidence? So when you're with the company for a while, it can be, it can get to a point where you're comfortable, all the people to go to, the executives, all the places to, to influence, and those that you probably don't want to die on that hill trying, and all of those things, right? So you get into a very comfortable groove to some degree. Not that imposter syndrome doesn't exist when you are with a company at some specific tenured time, but it definitely reappears when you're shifting, into a different, when somebody moved your cheese, basically, when there's a change afoot. So I really loved this quote from Michelle Obama, because I thought, oh my goodness, Michelle Obama actually has written about imposter syndrome. She identifies with that. And her quote was, your success will be determined by your own confidence and fortitude. And I think that's brilliant. So I included it here. So moving into the next part, characteristics of imposter syndrome. So this is, I'll go through the list here and eager to hear your thoughts on this as well, but obviously characterized by self-doubt, inability to realistically assess your competence and skills, attributing your success to external factors, which is what I did. Like, I don't think, is it some kind of luck that I got hired? Attributing, berating your performance. This is often aligned with perfectionism. So if you suffer from sort of a perfectionist part of you, you may relate to that bullet point. Fear that you won't live up to expectations, overachieving, again, the perfectionism chip, sabotaging your own success, setting very challenging goals and feeling very disappointed when you fall short. So maybe some of these resonate with all of you. Yeah.
They definitely do, Jenna, for sure.
Yeah. So not to worry, because we will talk about ways to tackle them. Some some parts at the end here where we can get into how we overcome this. But it's really important that you just take a moment and really let these sink in, because when you are sensing that, when these things are seeping into your mind, recognize it, and that's how you'll be able to overcome it and stop it. But these are the areas that you're seeing on your screen that will help you identify it. So, and I also wanted to just include a couple of fun facts for you. I don't know if they're really fun, but they're facts. KPMG study from last fall, 75% of executive women across industries, all industries, have experienced imposter syndrome in their careers. That study went on to say that, particularly in tech, which we are all a part of and aligned to, this is very, very common. And there's a lot of different social biases and other gender biases that create that in us sometimes. So we want to be aware of those things, right? We have a seat at the table, we belong there, and that's that. And so just go in confidently and remember that you're supposed to be where you are. Harvard Business Review, which I love HBR, the little, if you guys are not familiar with HBR, they have some brilliant little segments, little vignettes of little, I follow them on LinkedIn. They've got some really powerful leadership and other things to kind of fuel your soul for the day on positive thinking. But HBR also reported that women feel imposter syndrome more than their male counterparts, primarily because of gender biases and prejudices, which is what the other study found as well. So that's really interesting. It affects women more. Probably not a huge shocker to us as women, but worth calling out that even the professional studies have identified that as well. So I want to just kind of pause and maybe, if anyone here is comfortable sharing a moment in your career where you've experienced these feelings, and maybe walk us through what you've done to overcome them.
So Jenna, I'll share. I don't have a specific experience, but for a long time, I felt that being in tech, that I didn't speak tech language very well. I felt that I always used very simple words and not like the super techie terms to explain things to other technical people or non-technical people. And what I've actually realized over the years is that's actually a huge benefit that I provide that other people don't, because when I talk tech or explain things or explain a super technical process or what's going on in the background, I'm using really simple words and not the complicated technical words, so that I'm able to bridge that gap between the technical people and the non-technical people. And I kind of wonder at times, like, do these technical people think I'm dumb because I'm not able to like reiterate in all those like super techie terms? But I don't feel that anymore, because the executive leadership or the people, the frontline staff, they understand what I'm trying to get across to them, and they get it on the first or second time I explain it. I don't have to go over it multiple times, and they're not lost. And so it's turned into a benefit.
That's a great example. I love that. And it's really important, right? To this is not this, I know this is imposter syndrome. We could talk about leadership and bench strength and all that stuff, but it does align here, because as someone who hires frequently, I'm not looking for cookie cutter people, right? I don't want the bench to look the same. It's just like if you were a coach of a football team, you need various players and tools in your toolkit to operate. And so it's really, really important to identify that you won't have the same strengths as the person next to you, nor should you necessarily, right? The team has to interoperate in a particular way that benefits the organization and drives business value. Any other examples that anyone wants to share?
I guess I have I'll try to summarize a slew of examples that I've run into. I guess particularly with my military experience, just the witnessing repeated unjustified confidence from male or senior counterparts kind of all puts it into perspective. I remember one of my colleagues who I actually enjoy and respect, but he's that very typical hyper masculine, graduated from the Citadel dude who's like very forward and likes to talk over people. I've literally done that thing where like I don't think he even means to, but he'll interrupt women and just doesn't even think about it. And I'll like keep trying to talk over him. But he was doing this thing. He's like, oh no, we're definitely going to do it this way. This is the absolute best way to do this, even though I was like trying to suggest another thing. Well, he did it that way and fell apart. And we found that we should have done it the way that I and some other colleagues had suggested. And it's just looking at other people, or even the most confident people that you admire, think, oh, they might know better than me what I'm doing. Oh, he's a surgeon. He knows better. Or I'm just a newbie doctor. Like, you have to look at your successes and also look at other people and know that, you know, you're competing and you're good at this too. And you have valid input as well, even amongst these people that you might idolize or think who are doing better.
Absolutely.
So I guess it's like just kind of building yourself up, make sure you're doing yourself justice by seeing the whole picture. I don't know if that's a good.
Spot on. I actually can share a similar experience in my previous employer. Rachel, you'll know that Brian. So I'm at a table and we were at a client site, and we had issues with the client with various software configurations and different things that were going on with this particular customer. And I'm sitting at the table, my boss is there and several other members of the team were there. And I was lucky enough at the time to have a mentor named David. And David was kind of watching this all play out, and I didn't even identify it myself until he called it out later. But I was trying to set up my boss, Brian, successfully. So I would just keep leaning in and telling him what to say, telling him what the situation was, what the customer really wants, what we're trying to achieve, all of these things. And I'm just like leaning in or writing it on a paper so that my boss could shine. And he's not the type of guy that he necessarily had to have the spotlight per se, but I gave it to him. And I just didn't even realize that I was operating in that way. It just, for me, it was a very similar story because my own voice didn't seem strong enough, or I was so meek at the time. I just didn't know, you know, am I going to sound stupid? I'm going to use my boss as a gatekeeper. He'll share it. Right. So, and these are pretty common, especially early on in our careers, that, you know, for if you're just starting out like you are, Sarah, I think that's really critical to identify straight out of the gate and nip it in the bud, because you do have things to say that are important and powerful, and you should show your voice, show up, show your voice, and let others hear it, because it's important. And so after that meeting, it was my mentor that pulled me aside and said, you can spend the rest of your career being Brian's assistant, or you can speak up because you were the one with the details. You were the one the customer wanted to hear from. And it was such a powerful lesson for me. And I was like, wow, that's actually spot on. Any other stories to share? All righty, moving on to identification. So, you know, kind of, this is just kind of the opposite of what we talked about before, right? Well, actually very similar to the characteristic slide. It's agonizing over the small mistakes, the belief your success was luck or something other than your own talents, fear you'll be found to be a fraud, downplaying your expertise. I'll get into the habits versus rituals component here in a couple of slides forward. That's kind of our where we'll land at the end to just kind of talk about how we'll overcome this. But skipping right ahead to kind of the conquering piece. So it's really a mindfulness game, right? We know what's happening here. It's confidence. It's all the voices in our head. It's flipping the script to say, you know what, I'm good enough. I am supposed to be here. It's separating the feelings from the facts and just knowing that you're going to fail sometimes, and it's okay to fail, and you'll learn the lessons from your failures and you'll be okay. It doesn't mean that you don't belong there because you failed. It means you will have gathered more data and details, and you'll have learned and be better for it. Failure is not a bad thing, but you should ask yourself, instead of saying, what if I fail? What if you succeed? So it's really a mindfulness game. And I found this little exercise that I thought I would share with you all. It's kind of this brain work. It's this, I don't drink enough water. So I found this graphic and I thought it was brilliant because I thought, oh, this is actually what I should do. It's very similar in the sense that you want to just retrain your brain, right? And so it's this cue, routine, trigger. And the cue, this is more of a positive kind of diagram here, but in the imposter syndrome world, the cue is identifying that it happens, and the routine is what you're going to do with it, and then the trigger is just how you'll, what routines or rituals will you now employ as a result of identifying it, right? And I kind of stepped through the habits and the routines and the rituals pieces because as I was thinking through this mindfulness thing, like it sometimes has to be a little bit deeper than that. And I think it was Shay in the last conversation that shared that Amazon has this mindfulness journey, and it's like 5 minutes a day. And I think she said it's called the 5-minute journal. And then you just kind of fill it out, like your thoughts for the day. If you want to just journal what you ate or your exercises, all those types of things, right? You can journal it, and then it's just boom, it's more in your head, right? So you can even journal like, yeah, today I was in a meeting and I noticed that I was acting in this way, or, I failed to speak up, or I had this feeling creeping in that, there was other software engineers around me that knew way more about Apex coding than I did, or whatever it might be, right? All those things, you can just stop it in its tracks with some little bit of retraining your brain. Do you guys have any techniques that you have tried in the past that's worked for you when you've found yourself in these similar situations? All righty. I think for me, another one, I don't know that this is necessarily working for like an imposter syndrome, but like any kind of like gamification or any kind of reward system that you can give yourself. Like, so if you've identified it and you've overcome it, and whatever reward system works for you, the part I said isn't going to relate to imposter syndrome necessarily is, I don't know if any of you ride Peloton, but I do. And I just need that blue dot on my, it could be Orange Theory, it could be any other like fitness environment, but it's that kind of like, I'll do it. I don't really want to exercise tonight after, being on Zoom since 7 a.m., but I just need that blue dot. And as silly as that sounds, on my Peloton app, it's enough for me to just get motivated and do it. But I think there's a whole ecosystem of mind over matter and kind of just being really intentional with your thoughts. And I guess really that's what I'm trying to convey here at the end. But that's
I just thought of one. No, I was going to say, whenever I get like an hour of coding done, or if I get through my workout successfully, I either reward myself with a glass of wine or chocolate. Very food motivated. So that's usually what I do to keep myself going.
excellent. I love that. That's great. Any others? And what are your motivators?
I mean, I'm the same way, like you mentioned the Peloton. So I have a board in my kitchen with my Camp Gladiator workouts, my weight workouts, and then walking, and just like the visualization matched with my goals. And I have to work out 5 days a week. And if I don't, then I just feel like I've missed something or whatever. And then I'll reward myself with, new tennis shoes or new gym clothes or, something like that too. So
That's what I do. I'm a retailer.
I reward myself a lot.
I definitely need to work on the motivators for the working out for sure.
Yeah. I mean, it comes from the same place though, even with imposter syndrome and working out or whatever those things are, right? It really is coming from the same powerful place, whether we tell ourselves we're going to think about things in a certain way. So that takes us to the end. Any thoughts or feedback or general discussion?
Oh, yeah, I guess I have a question. I don't know if anyone has any specific advice. I know lately, as far as the imposter syndrome is going, I've been feeling a lot of that, oh, I just got lucky feeling. Like I just kind of stumbled through this. I literally taught myself on YouTube and I somehow ended up with an engineering job at PayPal, and now I don't know what to do with myself. But no, I know I've worked hard. I know like I have some skills, but it's just, I don't know, I can't help but feel like I almost got, I know I'm a recently separated veteran and like that has a little bit to do with it. And the Hiring Our Heroes internship that I got through the military helped me. So I'm like kind of feeling like, oh, I got that. It's just because I got that help from the Army that I'm here.
Can I
And it's
just-
kind of hard to get over that.
Yeah, can I just tell you something? Earlier in my career, I'm a support leader now, but earlier in my career, and Rachel knows this too, she knew me from back then. I was a Unix administrator. I was a system administrator behind the keyboard. I worked at Oracle. I was one of the few women that were there at the time working at their data center. That was awful, by the way. But anyway, that's park that. But PayPal is a global, massive organization. They are one of the premier payment providers in the world. They're not going to sympathy recruit someone into their organization because you're only as good as your weakest link. And so you're good.
Okay.
You're good with what, that is the testament right there, that it's PayPal, that it's a massive organization with an incredible reputation, and you were good enough, and they think that you've got some stuff that they can work with. They know you're a system engineer one, they know that you've got growth and development to do, and they're willing to invest in you because you've got other attributes they saw in you. That's my take. What do you ladies think?
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. I mean, you bring something to the table that maybe others don't. And yeah, the fact that you taught yourself how to code, you were a doctor, you were the military, and now you got a job at PayPal. I mean, you should be really proud of yourself.
Yeah.
And that's pretty impressive,
Thank
right?
you.
And I just like going through this and just, I think being a woman in technology overall, it doesn't really matter what your career path is, but I feel like it happens a lot because it's so male dominated still. Like you face this every day, like every single bullet point, Jenna, on one of your slides, I can't remember what it was. I'm like, well, I do that and I do that and I do that and I do that. And I'm really successful in my career, but little thoughts creep in, or I'll say something in a stand-up and I'm like, oh, was that the right thing to say? Was it not? And I'm like, I have more experience than anybody else in my office, but it's crazy how those thoughts just creep in,
Mhm.
So, but yeah, Sarah, I'd be really proud of yourself, and and now it's your time to shine and prove to them you can be one of the best there. So
No. No, well, thank you guys. I appreciate that feedback. So, because I am very proud, but it's also been very scary. So thank you for the sanity check there.
So Jenna, what kind of advice would you give to somebody who is possibly looking for something beyond what they're, what position they're currently in, but they feel that, well, I'm comfortable here and everything's good, but really you kind of want to move on to the next thing, but you're stuck in that comfort level and you don't feel capable?
That's a great question. I think growth comes from change. And I think if you have to decide for yourself if your comfort level overrides, you know, where you want to maybe go with your career, or other things that you may just want to try. I was very comfortable in my previous role and I didn't need to go. There was no dynamic. There was nothing, you know, I just felt like there was something else that I wanted to try, and I did want to grow, and I did, you know, that I'm kind of at a point in my career a little different than Sarah. I'm kind of in at the tail end of it, where it's, you know, like I probably got another, what, 10 or 12 in front of me. And I thought, kind of want to give it another go at another company. I love startups, and this is a startup. And I just, yeah, I think you have to want that change though. I mean, that it again, it just comes from that place of, but you can't give up on yourself. You can't just, if it's, I'm going to stay where I'm at because I'm afraid, if it's fear, then you've got to somehow talk yourself out of that whole, it's all those bullet points we looked at before, right? It's talking yourself out of whether you're good enough, and you don't want to be there either. I hope that answered the question.
It did. Thank you, Jenna. And, you know, one thing that you kind of triggered a memory of is, you know, I was in, I have to do a lot of, get people through a lot of change in my agency. You know, we're always changing things, right? And so, you know, a couple of years ago, we were going through this big project, and, you know, there was a lot of resistance. And we had to kind of utilize some other techniques to get people comfortable to move forward. And one of the things that we did was, you know, I had everybody stand up, and I'm like, all right, everybody cross your arms. You know, so everybody, you know, cross your arms. Now everybody cross your arms in the opposite direction. And it feels weird, but, you know, and uncomfortable, but we can do it and we get it done. And so that's really like a physical thing that you can ask people to do to kind of make the point that change is uncomfortable, but it can be
That's
done.
great. I love that. I've not heard that one before. My last boss used to say all the time, though, get comfortable being uncomfortable. And it was, it made so much sense, because especially in tech and the worlds that we all live in, it, you know, change comes fast and frequently, and you just need to kind of go with it, and or it's gonna take you over pretty quickly. So get comfortable being uncomfortable. What do you still say?
This last year has really pushed the envelope on being uncomfortable. You know, and one of the benefits of this last year is, you know, every single person was pushed out of their comfort zone. It's majority of in the workforce as well. You know, it's like, let's send everybody home, let's do work differently. And we had to make it work very quickly with like hardly any time to work it out. But, you know, we all figured it out relatively quickly. We got it done. Businesses put money into upgrading their equipment, their websites, their processes, so we could still shop. I mean, you could start buying, you know, liquor from the liquor store and have it delivered to your car. You know, that wasn't an option before, you know, and we all got really uncomfortable really quick, but we made a lot of change, especially in the tech space. And, you know, that's just, it's one of the benefits of this last year. That was pretty terrible.
Yeah, that's well stated. For sure. Well, I've really, I don't know how much time do we have left?
So we have 3.5 minutes left. They did extend the session. It looks like Denise can close out the message, everything now. But if you feel that we're all wrapped up, Jenna, we can all leave the room and go back to the main session.
That, yeah, let me just say thank you all for selecting this session tonight. I've really enjoyed getting to know each of you a little bit more, and hopefully you'll have taken one or two things away from this session and apply it in your go forward world. And thanks again.
Yeah, this was great.